Hello, Magic the Gathering players from around the world. My name is Rafael Trevino, and this is a new channel that I've always wanted to create, and it's called EDH Please. Here I will be making deck techs for Commander in EDH, maybe a bit of Oathbreaker, as I found it to be pretty fun, but mostly Commander. And the first Commander I have today is a deck that I've become very fond of, and it is Wort the Raidmother. There we go. Wort the Raidmother is a 3/3 Legendary Goblin Shaman for 6, for 4 and double red. And she makes 2 Goblin tokens, and so at the first sight of that you might be saying, oh well, she's a green-red Goblin Tribal Commander deck. No, that second text is what we're looking at. Each red or green instant and sorcery spell you cast has Conspire. And so what Conspire lets us do is it lets us tap 2 creatures that share a color with the instant or sorcery spell that we have and make it to copy it. And so you can probably guess where this is going. We're going to be playing a bunch of instants and sorceries that have value when they're doubled or something like that. And this is a very fun deck because we ramp pretty hard because we're in green, and then with all those lands that we get, all that mana we get, we spend a bunch of time throwing spells at our opponents. So before we get into the meat of that, I'm going to show off the lands of this deck, and we're going to start off with the non-basic lands. Alrighty, so we only run 6 non-basic lands, and that is because most of our ramp spells grab basic lands. In fact, almost all of them do, except for 2. Actually 3, and I'll talk about those in the next section. But the non-basic lands we run, these first 2 I want to talk about are Stomping Grounds and Sheltered Thicket. These 2 we can grab with Skyshroud Claim, which is very good. And so they are mountains and forests, and so they're very good. So we run those 2. We also run Temple of Abandon because it scries and it's in our colors. Gruel Turf. It's just good. It adds, red and the green. When we tap it, it bounces a land, it's fine. And then Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, they're pretty much the same thing, and they just grab us more basics and more of our colors. And for our basics, we have 14 mountains and 13 forests. They're all right here. All right, so the next section we have is our ramp, our fixing. So I run Overflowing Chalice or Everflowing Chalice. I can't figure out how to pronounce this, but it just, for each charge cannon we put on it, it adds more and we can get a lot of mana. So late game, this will help us cast a lot of our spells. Soul Ring is Soul Ring. It adds 2 mana for 1 mana. It's very good and it helps us, with a bunch of our fireballs and things like that where we're running. It helps us get there good. And then Gruel Signet. Gruel Signet is good because it's kind of like the Gruel Turf, where it gets us, a red and a green, and that can come in very handy if we need to recast our commander or do something of the sort. So the next section we have is our land ramp. So we're getting a bunch of cards that grab us basic lands. So we're running things like Rampant Growth, Cultivate, and Kodama's Reach. They do the same thing. Harrow is good. It grabs us 2 lands. Untamed Wilds is something that I recently found, and I really wouldn't run this. In fact, this might be the first one I cut. It's kind of like Farseek, where it grabs us, any color except for green. This one grabs us green, and it comes in untapped, but it only grabs 1 land, and so this will be good for grabbing like a Stomping Grounds or something. I'd rather put this in a 5-color build than a 2-color one, but it's good to know it exists. And Grow from the Ashes is a very good spell, especially if you pay that kicker, because they come in untapped. 5 mana for 2 untapped basics. I'll play it, and we can copy it too with Wort. Skyshroud Claim is good, and that's why we run the Stomping Grounds and the Sheltered Thicket. Circuitous Root is good because it grabs us 2 basics. It's another Explosive Vegetation, which is the next card. But it also grabs us a Guildgate, and we run Gruel Guildgate, and that's just good because it gets us 2 of our colors. And if I cut it from the deck after I made this section of the video, then I'll just say something about it. But it's good because it just grabs us 2 lands. We can copy it with Wort. We can grab 4 lands, and that'll help us cast even more stuff. Explosive Vegetation, we run it for the same reason. Ranger's Path is kind of like a bad Skyshroud Claim because they come in tapped, but it can also grab us forest cards, so we can grab Sheltered Thicket and Stomping Grounds if we don't have it. And then this section I call is the mana ramp, in air quotes. It's a terrible name, but it basically, instead of getting us lands, these get us mana. So Battle Hymn is great because it gets us red for each creature we control. We're going to have a lot of creatures, a lot of tokens. Now, I said this wasn't a token strategy, but it can be. If Plan A fails, if they start countering all of our big fireballs and X-spells, then we can just start overrunning them with tokens. And this is good because this, if they can't counter it, then we have a bunch of mana and fireball their face and copy it. Seething Song is along the lines. Adds us 5 red. We can use that to cast our commander on turn 4, maybe. Same thing with Mana Geyser. Mana Geyser is an awesome spell. If you're not playing in commander and you're playing red and you need lots of red, then you should, especially in mono red. Because it gets you a red for each tapped land your opponents control. If you're running an average game of commander, which is 4 players, then if they all tap out or they tap most of their mana, then you're going to get a lot of red mana, and you can do crazy things with this spell. And I think it's banned in Oathbreaker, which shows you, in a smaller format like Oathbreaker, that it is very powerful. And it's still pretty powerful in Commander. Not as powerful as most things, but it's still very good. And then Brass's Bounty is something that I just discovered because I didn't play in Ixalan. I don't do a lot of Standard, and I was like, Ixalan, it's cool, but it's got some good stuff. But I overlooked this card for the longest time. And I was like, oh, wait, this just gets me even more mana. And it doesn't go away like with the Mana Geyser or Seething Song or something like that. I get to keep them and use them, and they can even give me green mana if I need that for this deck. So you can copy this with Wort, gains you a bunch of treasure, and then you can sack all those treasures to cast a big spell. It's so good. All right, so the next section of this deck is our token makers, is what I'm calling it. So Young Pyromancer is one of the best. This deck it's not exactly mainly instants and sorceries, but most of our cards are instants and sorceries. There are a few artifacts, lots of lands, and lots of creatures, or a few moderate sized amount of creatures. But this will make a lot of elementals. And most of our payoff cards, our win conditions, are red spells that we want to copy with Wort. So this is very good. Gazandu Tuskcaller can also make us a lot of elephants. And when we get a lot of lands, when we get a lot of our explosive vegetations, our rampant growth, things like that, we can put a ton of level up counters because you run a good amount of forests in here, a good amount of green mana, and we can just put a bunch of level up counters on here and get to 6 very fast to keep making 2 3/3s. And 3/3s will do the job. You don't have to be 16/16s to kill, a bunch of opponents. A lot of 3/3s will do it. Now, I said this wasn't Goblin Tribal, and it's not. But Wort makes goblins, and she is a goblin herself, and we want a lot of tokens, or at least enough to cast our spells. And I was like, well, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Nah, I'll run Krenko. Krenko is so good. I had a goblin deck built around Krenko because he's the best goblin commander. Well, one of the best. There's a new one in Modern Horizons that's coming out. I'll put him up on the screen. He's going to be the next build for this channel. Hit the gear. But Krenko will make a lot of goblins very, very fast, and a lot of our cards make goblins, so it's good enough to run it. Now, and I'm doing this in order of mana cost. I might split it up in the next video for different sections, but this is the first video. I'm going to make mistakes. It's okay. But Second Harvest is not a mistake. It was a mistake to be printed and put in this deck for your opponents, because this is a crazy spell, because we're making... Our plan B is to make a lot of tokens. And we can make a lot of tokens with this, especially if we copy it with Wort. And there's another card in here that will make us get even more copies of this. It's just a lot of fun. All right, Sprout Swarm. This is a good spell. Eventually you get to later in the game where you can just keep paying 3 to make an army of 1/1 Saplings. They're green Saplings too, so they help us copy Second Harvest or Explosive Vegetation or things like that. It's a good spell. Dragon Fodder makes goblin tokens. Same with Krenko's Command. And Hordeling Outburst makes us 3. Molten Birth gives us elementals, and it has a cute, cool coin flippy thing. This isn't a coin flip deck, but it's fun to play this card. So it'll give us 2 elementals, and then we flip coin. If we win, we get it back, and so we can cast it again and again and again as long as we keep winning those flips. But most of the time I lose the flip, so it's just another hoarding outburst at sorcery speed. Thrash and Threat, we're really playing it for that 4/4 beast token that's red and green, because it helps us cast all of our spells. I want to find more tokens that make red and green, but for right now, this deck works with what it's got. And so it makes a 4/4. We can copy it, make more 4/4s. We can get some of our instants and sorceries back from our graveyard. We can do this, and we can even use this to for some spot removal if we need to. So I like running this. Now, this isn't a Storm deck, but Empty the Warrens is pretty good, and it makes us 2 1/1s, and we can cast a bunch of small spells. In the later game, we can cast some of our rocks, some of our creatures, and things like that, and get it up to about 3, and we can copy it for another time and get a good amount of 1/1 goblins. It's not a whole lot. If I were to cut some cards, this would be one of them. Maybe this would be like. And then Goblin Rally makes us 4 goblins. So it's pretty good. It's 5 mana, and we can copy it. It's great. It makes 8 goblins if we copy it. Good things. Now, this is a very small section of the deck, but these are extra copy spells. And a lot of the copy spells are expensive in mana cost and expensive in price. I really want a... I can't remember the spell's name. I'll put it up on the screen when I remember it in post. But it's like $11, and I don't want to spend that much on one card. But Reverberate gets the job done. It copies an instant or sorcery. You can choose new targets. This is our counter spell, because we can copy a counter spell and target the counter spell with this double red. It's kind of the same thing, but this is good because we can copy any of our win conditions or anything like that. Alrighty, Howl of the Horde is actually very good. It's copyable with Wort, so we can copy copies. And this is one of those that I would recommend copying with Wort, because you can just attack with a 1/1 goblin, and the raid clause just only triggers when you attack. It doesn't have to deal combat damage, doesn't have to do anything. But you can copy this with Wort, so you get 2 versions of this spell that have the raid trigger on it, so you get to copy a spell for 4 times technically, if I'm doing my math right. I should be, but this is a good spell because this will help us kill people in our second main phase. And then Pyromancer's Goggles is great. It adds us red mana, which is what we're looking for, and it copies spells, and we can copy the spells that we have cast with this, with Wort, with some of the other copy spells we have. If you were to cut stuff in this deck, I would cut a couple of the weird cards, the cards that don't. They're kind of pet cards for me, and you can probably figure those out. But I would cut those for more spells that copy. There's a flashback one that's really good that you can copy as well. That does the same thing as Howl of the Horde, but this is kind of what the deck is all about. All right, and so this is the section of our win conditions. I've organized these by mana cost. Again, that might be a mistake on my part. But basically, this is what we're trying to do to win. So like Demon Fire, 1 red and X, deals X damage to target creature or player. That player is what we're looking for. And we can copy this with Wort. We can copy it with Pyromancer's Goggles, any of our other copy spells, and hit multiple players. We might do it for 16, might do it for 25, copied. We can do it to 1 player even with those copies, and take them out of the game in 1 fell swoop. So we have Demon Fire, Crater's Claws, Karavek's Torch, Red Sun Zenith, good old-fashioned Fireball. This isn't the old-fashioned Fireball. I have one, but I can't find it, so this one will have to do. Disintegrate is great. It'll exile the creature if we target a creature, but we're mostly targeting players. And Jaya's Immolating Inferno is probably my favorite, because it targets 3 targets, if we could even cast it, because Wort will most likely be out, or probably die a couple times, but we'll have enough mana to cast her, and then cast this. And we can copy this, and copy it with other copy spells, and it's great, because we can target the other 3 players at the table twice, or maybe even 3 times, and probably kill them all. And these are our secondary win conditions. So Mob Justice, like I said, this is our second strategy is a token strategy. So Mob Justice will deal 1 damage to each player. Copy it with Wort, target another player, and we'll have a bunch of tokens in the late game. If our main strategy of ramping and fireballing our opponents doesn't work, then Mob Justice will do the job. It's the same thing. Same thing with Massive Raid. This will do the job just the same. It's an instant speed, one of the few instant speed win conditions we have. So this one is very good. The token strategy with Impact Tremors is great. I would run Perforos as well, but he's $20 and I don't want to buy a Perforos. So Impact Tremors will do the job. And Throne of the God Pharaoh will also do the job because we're tapping a bunch of our creatures to copy spells. This cares about tapped creatures. Let's run it. Gutter Snipe cares about our instants and sorceries. It doesn't care if they deal damage, but he will do damage to each of our opponents. So we can spell sling our way around a Gutter Snipe to kill our opponents even faster. And Helm of the Host is beautiful because this is probably one of my favorite cards ever made, because it can go into almost every deck. Every deck that has an ability that the commander is doing, or legendary creatures in general. Funny little thing about Wort is that you can give instants and sorceries conspire, or conspire. You can the conspire stack, and you can pay for different triggers, or you can pay for both of them, or none of them, or all of them. And this is extra copies for our spells. If we have extra warts, and what does Helm of the Host give us? Extra warts, or extra gutter snipes, or extra young pyromancers. It's a great card. Fire Servant is a good card. It can copy our instants and sorceries. We're never going to attack with this guy, probably. It'll copy our fireballs and make them deal double damage, and so then in that case quadruple damage because it's double. It's fun. But he's a good card because he's like he's a useful Furnace of Wrath in this deck. If you're just spell slinging and throwing big damage spells at your opponents, he's a good include. But in this deck, he's an all-star because he can also copy our spells. Burn at the Stake. This will kill people. This will kill 2 people. Even if you tap like 15 or like 8 tokens, this will kill somebody maybe. What's 8 times 3? Math. What is that, 22? 24? No, I don't know. 24. If you do 24 damage and then you copy it, you can do 24 damage to somebody else. You probably have a Gutter Snipe on the field, or maybe even the wonderful Fire Servant. And that's, 48 damage. That's killing 2 people. And it's just, this will kill people. This will finish a game. And Treacherous Terrain, this is another pet card. I really like this card because it deals damage equal to the number of lands we control. Now, Price of Progress is a similar spell. I'll put it up here. But Price of Progress will deal only non-basic lands. We run a few non-basic, so it wouldn't hurt to run it in the deck. But this cares about all their lands. It's a big spell. It's big and flashy. It can also get us lands if we need to. But this will, if you copy it a couple times, this will probably kill people in the very late game. If you can cast it on 8, on turn 10 maybe, if people have a lot of lands, if they're ramping just like you, this will kill them. And lastly, this is a section all about cards that I probably forgot about when I was putting these sections together, or I missed them or something. But these are sort of the miscellaneous utility. We have about 18 of these. So we have Swiftfoot Boots. This just protects our valuable creatures. Mainly Wort will wear these boots because she's very valuable to the deck. Benefactor's Drought. This is a really great spell because it untaps all of our creatures. We can copy this if we want. I don't know why. But we don't even have to do this on our turn. We can do this on our opponent's turn or something like that to save somebody or just to draw a bunch of cards. And it cantrips as well. Replaces itself by a lot. Burning Tree Emissary. It's red and green. It adds its mana. I probably should have put this in the token making thing, but it doesn't really make tokens. It's just good because it's red and green and it can copy any of our spells and it can give us 2 mana, and that's not valuable. It's just good. Hull Breach is copyable with any of our creatures. If we just have green creatures, we can copy this. Just red creatures, we can copy this. Wart's token can copy this. They can destroy artifacts, enchantments, or both. And it's great because this will hit a lot of things on the table. Quest for Renewal. Now, these 2 cards that I'm going to show, you could probably cut them and run 1 card. I can't even find the other card. Oh well. But Quest for Renewal, if we have the quest counters on it, it untaps all of our creatures, so we can cast stuff at instant speed. Now, if you cut this card for a Seedborn Muse, I'll put it up. I don't have one. I should get one. It's about $5. I don't know why I don't, but I just haven't. But you get a Seedborn Muse and you can buy a Vidalcan Ori. That's why I haven't bought one, because it's expensive. You can have sort of a budget profit accrue fix or a legal profit accrue fix. I'll put that up as well. But that boy is banned in Commander. So for now, this will work before I get Seedborn Muse. But if I were to upgrade this deck, I would definitely cut this or a couple of cards for Seedborn Muse. Beast Within will grab permanents, so this can destroy troublesome lands, artifacts, enchantments, creatures, planeswalkers, and give them a 3/3 beast instead. And we can copy this to blow up 2 permanents, so it's a very good utility spell. Eternal Witness is an all-star. Gets us back instant sorceries or anything that goes to the graveyard that we want back that we can't get back. So this is a very good card. Now, Bramble Crush is in the same camp as Beast Within, because it'll destroy a non-land permanent. It's kind of a small Terastodon. I'll put it up. But we can copy it with Wort. Can't copy a Terastodon. Well, you can, but not in this deck. And this will blow up 2 non-creature permanents. So this will blow up 2 planeswalkers or 2 lands, 2 artifacts, something like that. This is very good if there's like combo pieces on the board. So we can run that. Wilderness Reclamation is the other part of that Quest for Renewal combo I was talking about. This turns into a semi-Seedborn Muse. It's not as effective. It's great to have our lands untapped so we can use some of our instant speed shenanigans. But if I were to cut cards, this would be one of the cards I would cut. Harmonize is a great card. It's card draw in green, and it's not tied to creatures. So this is great. We can also copy it and draw 6 cards with Wort. So that is very helpful. Volcanic Offering is an offering card. This is good for politics, good for helping out. You can copy it and even ask other players to do stuff, or even keep teaming up with the same player. It blows up lands, troublesome lands like Glacial Fortress. That's a big one. It also takes care of troublesome creatures if their toughness is less than 14. Light Up the Stage is a card that I've come to love. I thought it was really bad until I actually read the card. It exiles the top 2 until your next turn. So if you don't use them, you can use them on your turn. And it gets lands too. You can play lands from this as well. So it's not entirely bad. You can spectacle it very easily in this deck. And you can copy it with Wort. You can grab 4 things off your library. It's kind of risky if you can't cast the stuff, but it's useful if you can. Anarchist is in the same sort of camp as Eternal Witness. I don't know why he's all the way out here. This was supposed to be organized in CMC, but somehow he got here. There's a bunch of 3-drops in front of me as well, so I don't know. But he grabs our instants and sorceries back only once, but we really only need them once if we're going to try to win the game. You have to be very careful with what you do, but if you mess up, you get a second shot. Fade into Antiquity is a good spell because it exiles artifacts or enchantments. Is there a troublesome Blightsteel Colossus? Good, exile it. Exile some of the other stuff too if they're playing Blightsteel Colossus. You know, really make them pay for what they've done to this game. Want to make people pay even more? Play Rain of Salt. 6 mana to destroy 2 lands, or 4 lands if you have Ward out, you can copy it, or any of the other copy spells. This is just some fun land destruction. You can really slide this anywhere. Take it out of the deck, put something else in. But this is fun because it'll grab non-basic lands as well, or just cut someone off of a color if you can. Chaos Warp is great. It's red removal, and red does not have a lot of removal for artifacts or enchantments. Oh, I take that back. We have plenty of removal for artifacts, but not a whole lot for enchantments. So Chaos Warp is great. This will get rid of creatures, planeswalkers, any troublesome permanent, really. So it's good to run. Charmbreaker Devils is an all-star in this deck. He gets back instants and sorceries for us, albeit at random. but still gets them back. And he gets bigger for every instant sorcery we cast. We're going to cast a lot of those. Probably not all in one turn, unless we're trying to storm with Warstorm Surge. But he'll do the job. He can be a big beater. He could probably finish someone off if we got them at 8. He'd just smack them for 8 if we cast just one spell. So he's a good include. And Skullwinder will wrap up our deck. He is a good 1/3 death touch blocker, but he also gets his back stuff. So he's kind of an eternal witness for us and one opponent. He's good. He gets his back stuff, but he can also get back a counterspell for your opponent, if you're not careful. Or if the blue player is the only one left at the table. Be careful with this guy, but he's good for getting us back stuff to win the game with. And that's going to wrap up Wort for us. This good Goblin Mother makes for a very fun commander deck, a very fun green-red spin. Instead of just big, dumb creatures, we're playing big, dumb spells. We're ramping into a lot of things, and we're playing a bunch of fireballs, a bunch of X spells, a bunch of big mana abilities. If you enjoyed this deck, why don't you give me a like and comment down below what else you would like to see. I'm working on a Goblins build next time, so some more red for you. But tell me what else you would like to see in another video. And with that, this has been Rafa with EDH Please, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.